her steps quiet, her eyes always looking at the ground. She was not like the others. Her skin had a faint glow, almost silver under the sunlight, and her eyes were larger than any human child's. Her fingers were long, delicate, and her voice was soft, broken when she tried to speak the human language. From the very first day, everyone knew she was different. And because she was different, she was alone. Children pointed at her, whispered to each other, and laughed when she passed by. She pretended not to hear, but the words always reached her ears. Freak. Strange bug. Not one of us. Every lunch break, she sat under the old tree in the corner of the yard, holding a small notebook. She drew pictures inside it. Pictures of stars, of strange creatures with wings, and of her homeworld that no longer existed. Sometimes her hands trembled while she drew, as if the memories were too heavy to carry. She never joined games, never laughed with the others. It wasn't because she didn't want to. She wanted it more than anything. She wanted to run, to laugh, to be part of the group. But she knew if she tried, they would push her away. So she stayed quiet. So she stayed apart. One afternoon, the whispers grew louder. A group of bigger boys stood near the playground watching her. She felt their eyes on her, sharp as knives. She held her notebook tighter, pressing it to her chest. The boys laughed. Look at her hands. Creepy, right? She's not even human. I bet she eats bugs for breakfast. The alien girl lowered her head, wishing she could vanish. Her heart pounded fast. She wanted to scream, but no sound left her throat. The leader of the group, a tall boy with angry eyes, stepped closer. Hey, alien, he shouted across the yard. Why don't you go back to your planet? Oh, wait, you don't have one. The children nearby laughed. The alien girl felt something break inside her chest. Her fingers tightened around her notebook. That notebook was the only piece of her world she still had, the only safe place left. The bullies walked closer. One of them kicked dirt at her feet. Another tried to snatch the notebook from her hands. She pulled it back quickly, holding it like a shield. Don't touch it, she whispered, her voice shaking. Oh, she speaks, one of them mocked. What's in it, alien? Drawings of bugs? Maybe a picture of your dead family? The alien girl's eyes filled with tears. She turned her face away so they wouldn't see, but the boys noticed anyway. They laughed harder. Children who were not part of the group simply watched. Some felt bad, but no one moved. No one said anything. The alien girl knew this feeling too well. She had learned one truth in this place: when you are different, you stand alone. But still, she held her notebook tight, refusing to let go. It was the last piece of pride she had. The leader reached forward and grabbed her wrist. His grip was rough, painful. Give it to me, he shouted. No, she whispered. Give it. He yelled again, pulling harder. The notebook slipped from her hands and fell onto the ground. The boy lifted his foot, ready to crush it. The alien girl's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but her body froze. The world spun around her, and she felt smaller than ever. The bullies laughed, their shadows falling over her. The sun dimmed, and her silver skin looked dull under the dust. She felt invisible, powerless, trapped. In her mind, she saw flashes of her home, the sky full of two suns, the voices of her parents calling her name, the fire, the smoke, the running, the silence. And now here, more laughter, more cruelty. Was there no place for her in any world? Her tears finally fell, tracing lines down her glowing skin. The other children stared, some curious, some cruel, but no one stepped forward. The leader of the bullies grinned, lifting his foot higher over the notebook. Say goodbye to your little book, alien. At that moment, the alien girl shut her eyes. She could not watch. She could not bear to lose the last thing that kept her connected to her world. But just as the foot came down, something happened. A new voice cut through the noise. Strong, sharp, filled with anger. Leave the girl alone. The yard went silent. The bullies froze. The alien girl's eyes opened slowly. A boy stood a few steps away. A human boy, not much older than her, but his eyes burned with courage. His fists were clenched, his jaw tight. He looked straight at the bullies, not afraid. The children around them gasped. No one had ever spoken against the bullies before. No one had dared, but this boy had. And his words echoed across the playground, stronger than any punch, louder than any laugh. The alien girl stared at him, her heart pounding, her tears forgotten for a moment. For the first time since she had come to this world, she felt something new, hope. Leave the girl alone. Every child turned their head. The bullies blinked, confused at first, then angry. The leader lowered his foot slowly from the alien girl's notebook, his grin fading into a frown. A single human boy now stood between them and their victim. His uniform was old, his shoes worn, but his stance was strong. He was not the biggest boy in school nor the strongest. But in that moment he looked unshakable. The leader of the bullies squinted. "And what are you going to do about it?" His voice carried both mockery and challenge. The boy didn't flinch. He stepped forward, placing himself firmly between the alien girl and the gang. His fists were tight at his sides, his jaw locked. "She didn't do anything to you," he said. "Stop bothering her." Laughter broke out from the group. "Oh, look. The alien has a knight now," one of the smaller bullies jeered. "Or maybe he wants to marry her," another snickered. The leader's grin returned, sharper this time. "You think you're a hero? Against us?" He gestured at the others around him. They outnumbered the boy 4-1. Still, the boy didn't back away. "I don't care how many of you there are," he said. His voice trembled slightly, but his eyes didn't waver. "You leave her alone." Behind him, the alien girl clutched her notebook to her chest. Her wide silver eyes were locked on the boy's back. No one had ever stood for her like this. Her hands shook, not from fear this time, but from something she couldn't name. The leader spat on the ground. "Fine. Let's teach this hero a lesson." The gang moved forward. One boy shoved the human hero hard on the shoulder. He stumbled back but held his ground. Another pushed again, harder this time. The group laughed, circling him like wolves. "Scared yet?" one hissed. The boy shook his head. "No." The first punch landed against his stomach. He bent slightly, sucking in a breath, but didn't fall. Another hit followed to his arm, then his chest. Each strike made the alien girl flinch as if the blows were landing on her instead. But he stayed standing. Every time they knocked him back, he stepped forward again, always keeping himself in front of her. "Why don't you run, hero?" The leader sneered. "Because she can't," the boy answered. The alien girl's eyes filled with tears again. But these were not tears of pain. They were tears of shock. Someone was fighting for her. Someone who could have walked away but chose to stay. The leader grew impatient. He picked up a stone from the ground, heavy and sharp-edged. He lifted it high, his eyes dark with cruelty. The children watching gasped. Even the other bullies hesitated. The alien girl's breath stopped. Her hands clutched her notebook tighter, her heart racing faster than ever before. The human boy glanced back at her once, just once, and in that glance she saw no fear, no regret, only determination. "If you want to hurt her," he said, voice steady, "you'll have to go through me first." The leader's face twisted with rage. He raised the stone higher, ready to strike. The crowd held its breath. The alien girl opened her mouth, but no words came. She wanted to scream for him to run to escape, but she couldn't. Her throat closed. Time seemed to slow. Dust floated in the air, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the yard. The leader stepped forward, stone raised, ready to smash, and at that exact moment, the sound of a teacher's whistle pierced the silence. The gang froze. The stone dropped from the leader's hand, thudding onto the ground. "Enough!" The teacher's voice thundered from across the yard. The bullies staggered back, suddenly small under the gaze of authority. The human boy wiped dirt from his cheek, still breathing hard but unbroken. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just stood there, his fists unclenched now, his eyes calm. The alien girl looked at him as if seeing something impossible. A protector, a shield, a friend. The bullies grumbled and scattered, pretending they had done nothing. The teacher herded them away, still shouting warnings. Soon the crowd dissolved. The laughter, the cruelty, all of it melted into silence. Only 2 children remained under the tree. The boy turned slowly. His face was bruised, his lip bleeding. But he smiled gently at her. "You okay?" he asked. For a long moment the alien girl could not speak. No words, no sound. She had never been asked that question before. Not here, not on this world. She clutched her notebook tighter, then gave a small nod. Her voice was faint, broken, but it carried a weight stronger than any stone. "Thank you," she whispered. The boy shrugged lightly, though his shoulders ached from the fight. "Don't thank me," he said. "They were wrong." "That's all?" The alien girl's silver eyes glistened. For the first time in years, she felt the heavy chains of loneliness loosen slightly. The school bell rang, echoing across the yard. But neither of them moved. They just stood there, 2 figures against the world. One small alien, one human boy, and for the first time, She didn't feel like an outsider. But deep in the shadows of the playground, the bullies watched with narrowed eyes. Their anger had not ended. Their revenge had only begun, and this was just the beginning. Whispers followed the human boy wherever he went. Some children admired him silently for standing up to the bullies. Others called him foolish for getting himself hurt over an alien. The alien girl walked slowly, clutching her notebook tighter than ever. She stayed close to the old tree, her safe corner, but her eyes kept searching. She looked for him, the boy who had stood between her and the storm. When she finally saw him near the classroom steps, her heart calmed. He had a bruise on his cheek and a small cut on his lip, but he was smiling faintly as if it didn't matter. Their eyes met for a brief second. He gave her a small nod, nothing more, but to her it felt like the whole world shifting, but peace never lasts long. The bullies were waiting. They cornered the boy near the water taps during the break. The leader, still burning with humiliation, sneered. "So, hero, you think you're special now? Everyone's talking about you. They think you're brave. But let's see how brave you are when you're alone." The boy stood straight, wiping his hands. "I told you already," he said. "Leave her alone." The gang laughed. "You're going to regret that." Before he could react, they shoved him hard against the wall. His shoulder scraped against the bricks, pain shooting through his arm. He winced but didn't cry out. The alien girl, watching from the edge of the yard, froze in fear. She wanted to run, to hide, but something deep inside whispered that running would mean losing him, the only one who had stood for her. She gripped her notebook and stepped closer. The bullies threw another punch at the boy's chest. He stumbled but didn't fall. He straightened, fist clenched. "You can hit me all you want," he said, voice rough but steady. "I'm not moving." The leader laughed darkly. "Why? She's not even your kind." He spat on the ground. "You're fighting for trash." Those words cut the alien girl deeper than any stone. But the boy's answer came sharp and fierce. "She's not trash. She's worth more than all of you put together." Gasps came from nearby children who had gathered to watch. The bullies' faces twisted with anger. The leader grabbed the boy's collar and raised his fist. At that moment, the alien girl ran forward. "Stop," she cried. Her voice cracked but carried across the yard. The gang turned, surprised. She stood there trembling, silver eyes glowing with unshed tears. Her small hands shook, but she didn't back away. "Don't hurt him," she whispered. The leader sneered. "Or what, you'll cry? You'll glow at us?" He laughed cruelly. "You're nothing. You don't belong here." The alien girl's lips trembled. She had heard those words too many times. But then she looked at the boy, bruised, bloodied, yet still standing for her. Something inside her changed. She stepped forward again, voice stronger this time. "He belongs. And so do I." The yard went silent. The leader's face darkened. "You dare talk back?" He shoved the boy to the ground and reached for a heavy rock nearby. His hand trembled with fury. The alien girl's breath caught. She wanted to scream, but before she could, the boy sprang up again. He grabbed the leader's wrist, stopping the rock from falling. His muscles strained, but he didn't let go. "You won't touch her," he growled. The struggle was brief but fierce. The leader was stronger, but the boy's will was iron. He twisted the wrist just enough that the rock fell to the ground with a heavy thud. The children around gasped again. For a moment, no one moved. Then the boy pushed forward, forcing the leader back a step. "If you want to fight, then fight me," he said. "But leave her out of it." The bullies hesitated. The leader looked around, realizing the crowd was no longer laughing. Some children even looked ashamed. Others looked impressed. It wasn't just a fight anymore. It was a stand, a fight for dignity, not only for the alien girl but for himself. The leader's pride burned. He snarled, ready to strike again, but the teacher's whistle shrilled across the yard once more. The crowd scattered like frightened birds. The bullies muttered curses under their breath but backed away, not daring to be caught. The boy, breathing heavily, turned to the alien girl. She stood frozen, tears shining in her silver eyes. Slowly, she stepped forward and touched his sleeve. You got hurt because of me," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, I got hurt because they're cowards." "But you," he gave her a small, brave smile. "You're stronger than you think." For the first time, she believed it might be true. The bell rang, calling them back to class. The children drifted away, whispering, but the image remained. One boy standing tall, one girl no longer shrinking into the shadows. The fight was not over. The bully's anger would return, darker than before, but so would something else, hope. And hope was stronger than fear. But the alien girl sat in silence at her desk. Her notebook rested on top, safe under her small hands. She kept her head low, yet her eyes wandered toward the boy who had defended her twice now. He sat near the window, sunlight spilling across his face. A faint bruise still marked his cheek, but he didn't seem to care. He tapped his pencil against his book, lost in thought. Every so often, he glanced at her, and each time she quickly looked away. No one had ever stood for her like that. Not here, not anywhere, and now she couldn't stop thinking about him. When the bell rang for lunch, children rushed out. The alien girl moved slowly, clutching her notebook as always. But this time she didn't walk to the old tree. She stopped when she saw him waiting at the edge of the yard. For a moment she froze. Should she go? What if he didn't want her near? But then he raised his hand slightly, a small gesture, almost shy. Her heart beat faster and she walked toward him. They sat under the tree together. For a long while neither spoke. The wind rustled the leaves and children's voices echoed far away, but their small corner felt like another world. Finally, he broke the silence. "What's your name?" She hesitated. No one had asked her before, not here. She whispered softly, her voice trembling. She told him her name. It was strange in the human tongue, carrying sounds that didn't quite fit. He repeated it carefully, slowly, making sure he pronounced it right. She blinked in surprise. No one had ever tried before, then he smiled. "It's a good name." Her chest warmed. She lowered her gaze to her notebook, unsure how to answer. With trembling fingers, she opened it and turned a page toward him. Drawings filled the paper. Skies with two suns, mountains glowing silver, rivers that shimmered like glass. Strange animals with wings, homes shaped like spirals, stars shining bright. He leaned closer, his eyes wide. "This is your world?" She nodded slowly. "My home." Her voice cracked, but she forced the word out. He studied the page with awe, as if seeing something sacred. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Tears stung her eyes. She had expected laughter, mockery, maybe even disgust. But instead he looked at her drawings like treasures. She turned another page. Her family. Tall figures with glowing eyes, smiling faces. A mother holding her hand. A father standing strong. She traced the lines with her finger, her voice almost too soft to hear. "They are gone." The boy's chest tightened. He didn't know what to say, but his hand slowly reached out. He didn't touch her, just rested his fingers on the grass between them, close enough for her to notice. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. No one should lose that. Her throat ached, but she nodded. No one had said sorry before. No one had cared. The silence between them grew heavy, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with something new. Understanding. She turned another page. This time the drawing was of herself, small and lonely, sitting under the very tree they sat beneath now. Around her were shadows, faceless figures pointing and laughing. She lowered her head, ashamed. But the boy shook his head firmly. "That's not who you are." She looked up at him, startled. "You're not just the girl they laugh at," he continued. "You're the girl who survived. You're the one still standing when anyone else would have given up." His words hit her harder than any insult. Her silver eyes widened, her lips trembling. "Survivor," she whispered, as if testing the word for the first time. "Yes," he said, his voice steady, "and you're not alone anymore." For the first time in years, her lips curled into the smallest fragile smile. They sat together until the bell rang again, but the moment stayed etched in both of their hearts. The rest of the day passed with whispers. Children noticed them sitting together. Some looked curious, some jealous, some angry. The bullies watched from across the yard, their eyes dark with revenge. But neither the boy nor the alien girl paid attention. For the first time, she walked to class not as a shadow, but with someone by her side. That evening, as the sun dipped low, the boy walked with her halfway home. The streets were quiet, dust glowing in the fading light. She carried her notebook against her chest, but her steps were lighter now. "Why do you help me?" she asked suddenly. Her voice was soft but serious. He looked at her, then shrugged. "Because it's right." "No one else thinks so," she whispered. "Then maybe they've forgotten what right is," he said simply. She stared at him, silver eyes wide. The words echoed inside her, stirring something she thought had died long ago. Hope. When they reached the corner where they had to part, she stopped and whispered again, "Thank you." He smiled faintly. "See you tomorrow." As she watched him walk away, the alien girl realized something incredible. For the first time since losing her world, she didn't feel completely alone. But in the shadows of the street, unseen eyes followed them. The bullies had not forgotten their humiliation. Their revenge was growing, sharp as a blade. The bond between the human and the alien girl was only beginning, but so was the danger. Still quiet, but she was no longer alone. Every morning, the human boy greeted her with a small smile. At lunch, they sat under the old tree together. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they didn't. But even in silence, she felt safe. For the first time, she dared to lift her head when walking through the yard. She still carried her notebook close, but she no longer clutched it like a shield. The whispers around her had not stopped, yet they cut less deeply now. She had someone beside her, someone who believed in her, but not everyone felt the same. From the far end of the yard, the bullies watched. Their laughter was gone, replaced by cold anger. The leader's pride still burned from the last confrontation. He could not forget how the boy had stood against him, how the crowd had gasped when he dropped the stone, how the alien girl had dared to speak back. Every day his fury grew, and every day he whispered to the others, "We'll make them pay." One afternoon, when the sun dipped low and shadows stretched across the ground, the bullies gathered behind the gym. Their voices were hushed but sharp like knives. "He humiliated us," the leader said, his fists clenched. "Everyone talks about him like a hero now. And that alien freak? She walks around like she belongs. We can't let this continue. What do we do?" One of the smaller boys asked nervously. "We hit them harder," the leader growled. "Not in front of teachers. Not where anyone can see. We'll wait. We'll catch them when they're alone." The others shifted uneasily, but his anger was too strong to resist. They nodded, bound by fear as much as loyalty. That night, the alien girl sat by her window, notebook open. She sketched the boy's face, his bruised cheek, his determined eyes. Her hand trembled as she drew, not from sadness, but from something new. "Something warm," she whispered softly. "Friend." The word felt strange in her mouth, but it made her heart glow, yet guilt soon followed. Because of her, he was being hurt. Because of her, the bullies were angry. If she had stayed silent, if she had hidden better, maybe he would have been safe. She pressed the pencil hard against the page until it snapped. Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to protect him the way he protected her, but she had nothing. No strength, no power. Only fear. The next morning, she walked slower to school. When she reached the gate, he was waiting. "You're late," he said with a grin. She looked down. I shouldn't walk with you." "They will hurt you again." He shook his head. "I don't care. But I care," she whispered. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he bent down slightly, trying to meet her eyes. "Listen," he said softly. "They want us to be scared. If we hide, they win. But if we stand, if we keep walking, then we win." Her silver eyes shimmered with doubt, but also with hope. Slowly, she nodded. That day at lunch, the bullies didn't approach. They stayed far back, watching, waiting. The alien girl felt their eyes on her like cold hands pressing against her back. She couldn't eat. She clutched her notebook tightly. "They're planning something," she whispered. The boy looked toward the group, then back at her. "Let them plan," he said calmly. "We'll face it." But deep inside, he knew she was right. The bullies would not stop until they had their revenge. That evening, as the sky darkened, the two walked home together again. The streets were quiet, the air cool. She glanced around nervously, every shadow feeling like a threat. At one corner, he stopped and looked at her. "You don't have to be afraid," he said. Her voice trembled. "But what if they hurt you worse next time?" He smiled faintly. "Then I'll still stand. Because some fights are worth it." Her heart ached at his words. She wanted to believe, but fear clung to her. Still, when they parted ways, she whispered once more, "Thank you." The boy walked off, unaware that eyes followed him from the rooftops. From the dark alleys nearby, the bullies were waiting. In the shadows, the leader whispered to his gang, "Tomorrow. After school. We'll finish this. The night was long for the alien girl. She dreamed of fire and smoke, of her lost family, of laughter turned cruel. She woke with tears on her cheeks and a single thought echoing in her mind. I can't lose him too. The next day dawned bright, but beneath the clear sky, storm clouds gathered in secret. The boy and the alien girl walked together again, unaware of what awaited them. The bullies smiled from the shadows, their revenge sharp and ready. The bond between the two children was growing stronger, but so was the danger hunting them, and the true fight had only just begun. In the yard, and lessons dragged on as usual. But beneath the surface, tension lingered like a storm about to break. The alien girl felt it in every glance, every whisper. The bullies were quieter than usual, their eyes sharper, their movements too calm. She clutched her notebook tightly, her silver eyes filled with unease. Beside her, the human boy noticed too. He leaned closer during class. They're planning something, he whispered. She nodded, her small hands trembling. I'm scared. He gave her a reassuring smile, though his jaw was tight. Then I'll be scared too, but we'll face it together. His words warmed her heart, but fear still coiled inside. She remembered his bruises, the stone raised above him, the whispers of revenge. What would they do this time? The answer came after school. The bell rang, and children poured out into the streets. The alien girl and the boy walked side by side, their steps slow, as if both sensed the danger waiting ahead. When they reached a narrow alley between the gym and the fence, shadows moved. Figures stepped out. 4 bullies, their leader in front. The boy immediately stepped in front of the alien girl, fists clenched. His voice was steady. We're not looking for trouble. The leader smirked. Too bad. Trouble found you. The gang spread out, blocking the path. The other children were gone. There were no teachers, no crowd this time. Only silence, broken by the thud of footsteps and the sound of a rock rolling under someone's shoe. The alien girl's heart pounded. She wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't move. She whispered softly, please. Let's just go, but the leader shook his head. No, today we end this. He lunged forward, shoving the boy hard against the fence. Pain shot through the boy's back, but he stayed upright. He raised his fists, his eyes blazing with courage. The fight began. The bullies struck with fists and kicks, pushing him back again and again. He fought back, not with the strength of muscle, but with the strength of will. Every time they knocked him down, he rose again. Every time they tried to push past him, he spread his arms wide, shielding the alien girl. Stay behind me, he shouted as another punch slammed into his shoulder. Tears filled her eyes as she watched. He was only one against many, yet he refused to fall. His lips split, his nose bled, but still he fought. The leader snarled, grabbing a wooden stick from the ground. He raised it high. Let's see how much of a hero you are now. The alien girl screamed, no! But the stick came down only to be caught halfway by the boy's hands. His arms shook with the effort, but he held it back. The leader pressed harder, fury twisting his face. You can't win, the leader growled. The boy's eyes burned with defiance. Maybe not, but you'll never break me. The words echoed like thunder. Something inside the alien girl snapped. All the fear, all the pain, all the loneliness she had carried burst out like fire. Her silver eyes glowed brighter than ever before. No, she cried, her voice trembling but fierce. Leave him alone. For the first time, energy rippled through her skin. A faint light surrounded her small frame, glowing like starlight. The bullies froze, shock in their eyes. The glow pulsed outward in a wave, not strong enough to harm, but strong enough to push them back. The stick fell from the leader's hand as he stumbled. The yard was silent. The bullies stared, wide-eyed. The boy, though bruised and bleeding, stood tall beside her. He looked at her with awe, not fear. You're not weak, he whispered. Her breath shook. She had never revealed her power before, not since escaping her world. But now, standing beside him, she didn't regret it. The leader's face twisted with rage. You think that scares us? You're still a freak. He lunged forward again, but hesitation slowed him. His gang didn't follow. They looked at each other nervously, fear creeping in. The boy stepped forward this time, his voice strong despite the blood on his lips. She's not a freak. She's stronger than any of you. And she's not alone anymore. The words cut deeper than any fist. The leader faltered, his pride cracking. One by one, the other bullies stepped back, unwilling to continue. The fight was over, not because of fists, but because courage and truth had broken their cruelty. The leader spat on the ground, humiliated. "This isn't over," he muttered before storming off. The others followed, their footsteps fading into the distance. Silence returned. The boy sank to his knees, exhausted. The alien girl rushed to him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You're hurt." He smiled faintly, his face bruised but his spirit unbroken. "I told you. Some fights are worth it." Her hands trembled as she touched his sleeve. The glow in her eyes dimmed, but the warmth in her heart burned brighter than ever. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like someone who belonged, because he had made her believe it. And now, with her hidden strength revealed, she had protected him too. Together they had stood. Together they had won. But deep in the shadows, the leader's vow still lingered. This isn't over. The battle had ended, but the war for acceptance had only just begun. Heavier. Everyone had heard what happened in the alley. The fight, the glow, the stand that no one had dared to take before. Children gathered in small groups, eyes darting toward the alien girl and the boy as they walked through the gate together. Some looked with awe, others with fear. But none laughed this time. The alien girl felt their stares like weight pressing on her shoulders. Her notebook was clutched close to her chest. Her steps small and uncertain. She wanted to hide, to disappear. But beside her, the boy walked tall, bruises still fresh, yet his head held high. "Don't look down," he whispered softly. "If you do, they win." Her silver eyes lifted, trembling but brave. For the first time, she didn't walk behind him. She walked beside him. When they entered the classroom, silence fell. The teacher's gaze lingered on the boy's bruises, then on the alien girl's glowing eyes. Questions hung in the air, but no words were spoken. At lunch, the two returned to the old tree. Children watched from a distance, whispering. Some were curious, some confused, and a few were ashamed of their silence all those times before. The bullies did not appear. Their leader had not returned to school that morning, his pride too wounded, his rage festering elsewhere. For now, there was peace. The alien girl opened her notebook again. She drew quietly, the tip of her pencil gliding across the page. The boy leaned closer. "What are you drawing?" She hesitated, then turned the book toward him. On the paper were two figures, one small, glowing girl and one human boy, standing together under a tree. Above them, stars shone, bright and endless. His lips curled into a small smile. "That's us?" She nodded shyly. "It looks right," he said softly. Her heart warmed at his words. No one had ever said that before. Right. She had always been wrong. Wrong skin, wrong voice, wrong world. But now, sitting here with him, maybe she wasn't wrong at all. As the afternoon passed, something strange began to happen. One child, curious, walked closer. Then another. They didn't mock or throw stones. They just stood a few steps away, watching her drawings. The alien girl froze, fear tightening her chest. She hugged the notebook protectively, but the boy smiled gently at them. "She draws worlds you've never seen," he said. "Come look." The children hesitated, then stepped nearer. Their eyes widened at the pages, strange skies, glowing rivers, spiral homes, creatures with wings like fire. Whispers spread, "It's beautiful. I didn't know she could draw like that. Her world looks amazing." The alien girl's hands trembled. She expected laughter, insults, cruelty, but instead their voices carried wonder. One brave child asked, "Can you draw me?" Her eyes widened. Slowly she nodded. She turned to a blank page and with shaking hands began to sketch. The boy watched, smiling proudly as she worked. By the time the bell rang, a small crowd had gathered around the old tree. For the first time, she was not alone. That evening, as the sky turned golden, she and the boy walked home together. Her notebook felt lighter in her hands, her steps less heavy. The world around her had not fully changed, but something inside her had. At the corner where they parted, she stopped. Her silver eyes glistened as she looked at him. Why did you help me?" she asked again, her voice soft but steady. He thought for a moment, then answered simply, "Because you're worth helping." Her heart ached with emotion. No one had ever said that to her. She whispered almost too softly to hear, "You're my hero." The boy blushed faintly but smiled. "And you're braver than you think." They parted ways, but the warmth of those words stayed with her all night. The next day, whispers still lingered, but they sounded different now. Less cruel, more curious. Children glanced at her with hesitant smiles. Some even greeted her softly. The change was slow, but it was real. The bullies still lurked in shadows, their anger unbroken, but their power had been cracked. They were no longer feared as much. The story of the boy and the alien girl had spread too far, had inspired too many. Under the old tree, the alien girl opened her notebook once more. The boy sat beside her, and together they watched as more children gathered. She sketched, they watched, and slowly, the walls of fear began to crumble. For the first time since she had lost her world, she felt something she thought she would never feel again: belonging. And as the sunlight touched her silver skin, she whispered to herself a single word, one that carried both hope and strength: home.